Hi, welcome to video 2. So this is video number 2 in our October Build Yourself a Butt Challenge month. For this video you need a rolled up towel or a half dome and a chair. So just any chair that you have that you can get hold of. If you don't have a chair, you can just use something that you can place your hands on. So you know, a unit that you've got, a coffee table, just anything that's kind of around that you can use for your hands to go on. But a chair is really good because you can kind of move it around. The only other thing that I've got is a block, because sometimes the chair might not quite be high enough, so you might want some cushions or something to build it up, but we'll kind of play around with that as we go through. We're going to start with the calf stretch, so grab your half dome or your towel and pop it down onto the floor. Usual calf stretch, top of the foot towards the top of the dome, heel down onto the floor and step your leg to about hip width apart. So just the usual calf stretch. Relax your wrists, relax your jaw, arms down by your sides. Have a look at the edges of your feet. If they're turned out, bring them in. And we're about hip width apart. Take some deep breaths. I like to start here. I like to start with the calf stretch just to find some length down the back of the leg. Okay. So in order for us to be able to build some glute muscles, or build more glute muscles, I'm sure there's some back there, we have to have everything in really good alignment. Now quite often our calves and our hamstrings down the back of the leg are so tight that it pulls your pelvis under and tucks your tailbone. And if you are in that position, you aren't then able to take your leg behind you to do a lot of the exercises that you need to be able to build some muscle mass. Then you step that leg a little bit further forwards. So I know that I do this one a lot with you. Don't just dismiss it and go, oh yeah, calf stretch, I've done it 1,000 times. It is really important, and that's why it's in there so much. Try and do this every day. If you can get your calf stretches in every day, it will make a huge difference. Let's do the other side. Same thing, top of the foot towards the top of the dome, heel down on the floor, and step your other leg to hip width apart. Have a look at the edges of your feet. Check again, jaw, neck and shoulders, ribs. Keeping your weight back through your heel of the leg that's on the dome. And maybe you can step that leg a little bit further forwards, maybe not. You are just finding where you are today. If it makes you feel like you're going to fall backwards, obviously take that leg back a little bit. But play with this. The more you do this calf stretch, the more length you're going to find down the back of your leg, and the more you are going to be able to take your leg forwards. And if you remember from when we did the walking workshop, the whole point of this is to give you a real good stride length. You should be able to step forwards far enough that you would in your normal walking gait. Okay, and then let it go. So we're going to do the soleus stretch now, which is another one of our calf muscles. So same thing, set yourself up back on that first side for your calf stretch. And then from here you're going to bend this knee that's on the dome. So a slight bend in that knee. And just see how that stretch changes. So you might feel that it feels a little bit lower, more down towards your heel perhaps. But notice as well, as you bend that knee slightly, does that knee kind of want to roll in? And if it does, can you think about turning the thigh out from the hip so that the knee is going straight ahead? So you might find that both knees need to bend, that's fine. And you also might find that you're leaning slightly forwards a little bit, and again, that's fine too. Just don't want that whole leg collapsing in, yeah, so keeping a slight turn out. Let's do the same on the other side. Set yourself up in position for your normal calf stretch. And then again, slight bend of the knee that's on the dome, and watch again, where's that knee going? Is it wanting to roll in? Can you turn out from the thigh to keep your knee tracking straight ahead? And just hold here. Good. Okay, and then come up and out of that. So now we're going to use our chair, and we're going to just do a hip hinge, but we're going to place our hands then onto the seat of the chair or whatever you've got. So let's stand with feet hip width apart, and we're going to fold at the hip, and we're going to place our hands down onto the seat of the chair. Okay, and then from here, you're going to back your hips up. So you're trying to send your bottom beyond your heels. And then we want to try and relax our spine as much as possible here. So notice if you are still quite rounded in your back, then that's when you want to lift your hands a little bit higher, and maybe you need a little pillow or whatever you've got. You know, maybe you need to go even higher. You want to go as high as you need to be able to allow your spine to relax. So you can see I've got a little curve in my lower back, and I'm sticking my bottom out. Now, even if your back is straight, let me try and find straight there. So even if your back is straight, we want more relaxation through the spine. We want to be able to have that little dip in the lower back. So play with how high you need to be to get that little dip in your lower back. And if you are a rib thruster, you want to make sure that those ribs are pulled in. We don't want to kind of create the illusion of a curve by dipping the ribs and not moving the lower back. Yeah. And then you can let your head hang. And we're backing the hips up. Try and get your hips beyond your heels. Head relaxed. Shoulders relaxed. Check that your shoulders aren't up around your ears, and keep sending your weight back through your heels. Just keep holding here. And you can kind of play around with how high or how low you want to be. And then how about we shift our weight side to side here. Just make it small. Make sure that your spine is relaxed and we're not starting to flatten out that back or round the other way. And maybe for you, just holding here is enough. Maybe trying to then move side to side makes you lose that kind of relaxed spine position. So you're always checking in with your body and doing what feels right for you right now. Go side to side or just keeping still. So we're trying to create some change in the body. We're trying to create some more length through this lower back. We're keeping our weight back through our heels, and you should be getting quite a big release down the back of the legs. So you might feel like you're stretching your hamstrings, your calves and your glutes. Might feel like it's stretching your lower back. Okay, so we're going to come up and out of that and just come on up for a moment. Just kind of give everything a little wriggle and just move it around a little bit. Okay, so we're going to do that again, but we're going to try it this time with the half dome as well. So that's giving even more stretch to the back line of your body. So if it's too much with the half dome, just do it with your feet flat on the floor. But otherwise, we're going to have the half dome just in front of the chair. We're going to place the balls of the feet towards the top of the dome, heel is down onto the floor, and again we're going to hip hinge and place your hands down onto the chair. Again, as high as you need to be to get that little dip in your lower back, but making sure that you're not dropping your ribs towards the floor. So let's say play around with how high do you need to be, and if this is too much with the half dome, get rid of the half dome. Have a look at your feet. Are your feet turned out? Can you get the outside edges of your feet straight? Can you back your hips up even more? Have you lost that little dip? Do you need to play around with the height to allow your spine to relax? Let your head go. And when you're ready, we're going to come up and out of that, step off, and give your legs a little shake. We're going to get rid of the half dome again, just go back to having our feet down flat onto the floor. So, same thing, feet hip width apart, hinging, bringing your hands down and backing your hips up. And then when you feel that you have relaxed your spine enough and you haven't thrusted your ribs and you feel quite happy in this position, we're going to see if we can then bring our legs in a little bit closer. So I'm closer than hip width apart now. And we're going to see if we can take one leg behind and then just bring it back in. How about the other side? Can you take one leg behind and bring it back in? Keep switching sides. Notice if your weight is starting to go forward, keep trying to back your weight up. It will keep trying to sneak forwards because it's a lot of work to keep your weight backed up. So as you take one leg behind, pay attention to what your pelvis is doing. So I like to think about where my hip bones are. Imagine that they're like little headlights shining on the floor. And as I take that leg back, I don't want my pelvis to be twisting. I don't want my headlights to start shining out. So they're going to stay down at the floor as I reach that leg back. So we brought that leg in a little bit closer to the midline, just to give us a little bit more support. Keep backing your weight up, move my chair forwards, and then kick in the wall. So keep checking because you will, your body is so clever, it will start to sneak forwards. And this is a lot of work for your butt muscles, for those glutes. You can go as slowly as you like. Notice while you're doing this though, what's happening with your shoulders. So notice whether you've dropped into your shoulders. We've spent so much time doing like shoulder stabilization. So get those shoulder blades stable and reach that leg. How's your butt feeling? Alright, let's have a little rest. So let's come up and out of that. Give your arms, your legs, everything a little shake. And we're going to do a number 4 stretch seated on the chair. So keep your block handy just in case you need it for this, but we're going to come to a seated position. And we're not going to sit all the way back in the chair or whatever you've got. If you're not using a chair for this and you're using a unit or something, feel free to go and sit on your couch or whatever you've got. Okay, so we're sitting with feet and knees hip width apart, and then we're going to bring one leg up and we're going to cross the ankle over the opposite knee. So you're in your number 4 stretch position, exactly the same as we do on the floor. Making sure here that you aren't sitting on your tailbone. So we want to try and find that neutral pelvis, and that's why having your block handy is a really good idea, because if you are struggling to find this neutral position, it might be just that you need a little bit more height. So sitting on an extra cushion or a block or whatever you've got just gives you that little bit more height and allows you to find a more neutral pelvis. Check in with your ribs. Let that knee fall out to the side and make sure that the leg that's down on the floor hasn't come in towards the midline, because we got it set up really well at the beginning. It was level with your hip bone and it should still be in that same position. Just take a few breaths, keeping the ribs down. And then we're going to switch and do the same on the other side. I'm going to turn my chair so that you can see me from the front for this one. So again, you're trying to find your sit bone, so making sure that you aren't tucked, and if you need something to sit on to lift you a little bit higher, grab that. And then we're lining up our thighs, our knees and our feet with our hip bones. And then we're going to bring one leg up and we're going to cross that ankle over the other knee. So what you're watching then is that this leg doesn't sneak and come across. This leg needs to stay in its own little channel. And then we've got this leg up and across. knee is pressing out to the side. You're sitting tall with a neutral pelvis and the ribs are going to stay down. So I'm going to take a few breaths here. Alright, that was your rest. I hope you enjoyed it because we've got more work to do. Come back up to standing. So we're going to go back to what we were doing just a few moments ago. But this time we're going to get ourselves in that same position, but then we're going to do a little pelvic lift. So, feet hip width apart. Hip hinge. Bring your hands down onto the chair, whatever height you need to be to relax your spine. Again, looking for that little dip in your lower back and backing your weight up. Okay, and then again, bring your feet in a little bit closer to each other, so we're not quite hip width apart now, so it's making it a little bit easier to stabilise. And then we're going to press this leg, one leg, down into the floor to lift the other side up and lower it down. Other side, press the leg down into the floor and lift and lower it down. So when I say lift your leg away from the floor, you've got a few options and a few ways of doing that. You can kind of bring your leg forwards, you can kind of take it out to the side, you can kind of take it back, or you can do the lift where you're pressing one leg down and floating the other side of the pelvis up. So it's exactly the same as when we're standing. I'm pressing one side down and lifting the other side up, but we're just doing it in this position. So just having a play with that a few times, keeping your weight back through your heels. So again, it should feel like your butt is doing a lot of the work. Okay, now this time you're going to lift one leg so that leg is free off the floor, and then we're going to take that leg back. So the standing leg is the leg that's doing most of the work. The leg that's moving behind you is of course doing work. Lift on the other side, and then take that leg behind you. But it's that standing leg that's doing most of the work. Make sure that you are keeping your weight backed up through your heels. So maybe lift the toes of that standing leg. And same as we did before, as you take your leg behind you, make sure that you aren't twisting your pelvis. Your headlights are shining straight down. Notice that my weight has come forward. Has yours? Back your weight up. Ooh, how's your butt feeling? Mine is definitely feeling it. I have definitely found my bottom. Let's do one more on each side. Last one. And come on up and just give your legs and your shoulders a little shake. Okay, so from here we're going to have a little look at some squats. Just some little squats. Again, it's really useful if you've got a chair. Again, you could do this by your couch or something like that, because all we're going to do is use the chair to stop our knees going too far forwards. So we're going to stand just a little bit away from the chair. Let's go feet hip width apart, and we're going to stick our bottom out like we're going to sit down, and then come back up. And again, like you're going to sit down and come back up. Now, when you squat, if your knees come forwards to squat, you're going to be banging into your chair. So that's why we've got that there, to make sure that you aren't bringing your knees forward, you are in fact taking your bottom back. Keep those ribs in, making sure that you aren't rib thrusting here. So again, quite often when we squat, people will really lift the ribs and then wonder why it hurts their lower back. Weight is really back into your heels. Again, maybe lift your toes to show that you have no weight in the front of your foot. And it doesn't matter how low you go here, you can go as low as you can control it, or you can stay up fairly high. It's more about getting the work in your glutes and your hamstrings. So you can do as many squats as you like. We're going to do a slightly different version this time. We're going to come to seated, and we're going to have our feet not really far away. not really close to the chair, just kind of like a 90-degree angle. And we're going to press into our heels, we're going to lean our body forwards, and we're going to come to stamp. It's like the reverse of a squat. And then we're going to sit back down using that squat method that we were just playing with. So you can bring your arms forwards if you want. You can stick your bottom out and find your chair. Now, notice that last little bit, do you have to kind of fall to reach back down to the chair? So do that again. Let's maybe lean forwards first. Push into your heels. Use your butt to come up. And then go back down the same way. Keep those ribs in. Stick your bottom out. Can you control all the way down? Or do you kind of get down so far and then kind of have to drop that last little bit? And if you do, that's fine. Again, you're going to bring the level of the chair up a little bit by maybe using a block or a pillow or something, just to make it so that you don't have to drop that last little bit. So again, weight back through your heels, lean slightly forwards, push into your heels to come up to standing, and then same when you go back the other way, keep those ribs in, you can't really see in this top, and come down without having to drop. I'm on a wooden floor and this chair is quite movable, so make sure that your chair is safe, maybe have it against a wall if your chair is moving around quite a bit. So you can play with that, okay? You can kind of do that as much as you like. One of the great places to play with that is when you go to the toilet, because, you know, getting up and down from the toilet, you know, how many times a day do you go to the loo? So that's kind of a way to incorporate squats into your everyday life. So think about that. Think about how far away are my feet, how close are my feet. Now, the closer your feet are in, the more you're going to be putting pressure on your knees. So that's why they kind of want to be at about a 90-degree angle. And then leaning your body weight forwards just takes a little bit of the weight off to allow you to come up. Okay? So have a little play with that. And we're going to obviously build on this as we go along. And we do have a whole month coming up that is dedicated to squats and getting better at squats. But for now, practice that when you get up from your chair, you know, when you're getting up from the loo, up and down, think about that squat movement. All right, thank you.